tell you a little bit about a few audits that we have done. One I did recently was on automated vehicle locator systems, and it was based on a call to our waste, fraud, and abuse line. And someone called and said, I don't think that those systems, those GPS systems in your DOT cars are actually working, and we think there's potential fraud. And unfortunately, they were right. Out of the 625 units that we have purchased, not purchased, but actually releasing, 11% of them, only 11% of them were working. 46 of the actual units were still in the warehouse. And we were paying airtime for all of them, okay, even though they weren't working. And then the even worse part of that was the fact that in 2006, we could have purchased these units for $1. Do you think we did? No. It was not given to us as an option when it came to the council to extend the contract. So from 2006 to this year, we were spending about $250,000 a year on leasing that equipment. And so we highlighted this in an audit, and we are changing that contract. And it is a way in which I can use this office to say we need to look at things differently. One of the others that we did was fixed assets. And we found that we went to 3 departments and we said, okay, you purchased this equipment. Can you tell me where the equipment is today? In the first blush, 45% of the time they couldn't tell us where the equipment was. Then we went back and it was about 25% of the time. And part of the problem was the fact that they didn't put in the computer where they put it. So when we said, we'd like to know where that Xerox machine is, for example, and they had never put in the computer where it went, so they had to search for it. So we had no information that suggested that it had been stolen, but we had no information to say where it was. And in fact, there was also a policy that if it was under $5,000, they didn't keep track of that. So think of all the things that we do that we purchase less than $5,000. Excuse me. So one of the other ones that I did, which did not make me happy, made me popular among my old colleagues, or my previous colleagues, was on surplus property. There is a policy in the city of Los Angeles that says, if a piece of property is sold or identified as surplus, 50% of the proceeds goes to the council district in which it is located, to that council member for however they want to use it. So some districts had a lot of money and other districts had none. Now when you're looking at a potential budget crisis of close to $500 million, my sense is if you sell a piece of property, 100% of it should go into the general fund. It should not go to specific elected officials for them to be able to use however they would like. Now, I actually took this position as a city council member. There were 2 pieces of property that were being sold. The fire station on Coldwater, which you're familiar with there, next to Sportsman's Lodge, and also the second one was the animal shelter on Sherman Way. Now, each of those have been there for a long time. They weren't always in Council District 2. In fact, I know that the shelter, for animal shelter, has been there a long time because I got my dog when I was 4 there, okay? It was not in CD2 at the time, and it wasn't bought by CD2 dollars. It was bought by everyone's dollars. And so I suggested that we take 100% and put it in, change the policy to not have it 50%. And I lost in that battle, both when I was a council member and when I became the city controller. And I got asked a few weeks ago, I don't know if any of you saw, but there was a piece in the LA Times that Pat Morrison did. And she asked me a question. She said, you know, she was asking me if it was tough to be city controller and what it was like, and were my relationships different with the elected officials? And I said, yes, because I'm highlighting things that no one really wants to talk about. She said, did anyone say to you that they took you off your Christmas list? And I said, as a matter of fact, someone did. They texted me when I did the surplus property audit and said, I have taken you off my Christmas list. So maybe by the end of my term, I won't be getting any Christmas cards from my friends at the council. But what I will get is the fact that we're standing up to say we're going to look at things differently in the city of Los Angeles. And so I have been doing follow-up audits on planning department, on building and safety, on various departments that we think they should be making changes on, the DNA rape kits and others, to really highlight how we can change things in City Hall. And you know, I have been asked many times, you know, isn't this a difficult time to be city controller, and what's it mean? And many of you, have recalled my son who has to go to school tomorrow, otherwise I would have brought him with me, but he said a few months ago to me, we're driving somewhere, and he says, you know, Mom, it's a difficult time to be city controller. I said, yes, honey, it is a difficult time. He clearly had heard everyone saying that to me. But for me, it is a great time to be city controller, where I can look at the challenges that we face and do it differently. And to say, how do we make things better? And there's no better job than city controller to do that, whether it be financial reporting, whether it be auditing, whether it be responsible for the payments that we make in the city of Los Angeles. Because I grew up in a city, in the San Fernando Valley, so I remind people, I went to public school, Knollwood Elementary School. I walked to public school. I felt safe. My family had a business that could thrive in an economic situation in Los Angeles, where we could travel in Los Angeles in 20 minutes anywhere in the city. How many of you remember that? Okay, if you're young, you won't remember. I remember 20 minutes you could get anywhere. And you would drive on the 10 freeway, and the direction that it would be traffic would be going eastbound in the morning, not westbound as it is today. But our challenges are great, and why I chose to be an elected official was that I thought we could make a difference to do that. That I want our children not to be in a position where my son, a couple of weeks ago, asked me to help him collect bugs. It was not one of my favorite things I wanted to do, but he said, you know, Mom, let's go out and collect bugs. So we couldn't find any bugs, so we found ants. And my son said to me, Mom, those are the 101 ants. I said, the 101 ants, what are those? He said, well, last week one of the ants died, and they were all going past, and they stopped, just like the 101 freeway. I said, if my son can know that the 101 freeway stops, and we have the 101 ants, I don't want us to be known for that. I think that in this city, that we have to challenge our elected leadership, and that even includes me, about how we can do things differently and how do we get out of this mess. I'm an eternal optimist. I am the glass is half full. But we will have to say, we can't do everything we've done in the past. It will say, what's our city going to look like in 5 years, and what are our priorities? And determine what those priorities, and to have a vision that you can go and talk to people and say, this is what we want to happen in our neighborhoods, or this is what we don't want to happen. And I know that's something we worked on together when I was a city council member. But it takes us working together. And I'm going to close, because I know you're ready.
Matt has some tough questions.
Okay, all right. Well, I just want to say that in this city, when we focus on the pillars that are so critically important, thank you, that I talked about, the core services, and where we look at where we can find waste, fraud, and abuse, and that we can work together to solve the problems, I think that's going to make us a better city, and that we have organizations like Soha who continue to have this many people come out each month to use their voices and to advocate for what's important for our neighbors and communities. So thank you very, very much, and I know we're going to have questions.
All right, thank you. A few of your questions do not apply to Wendy as controller. So I may not ask those either. Boy, I'll tell you, being the council person in this area and then being controller and going through these economic times, it sounds like you're absolutely prepared to. I mean, you're like the perfect candidate to be mayor in a couple of years, huh? Any comment on that question?
I'm a big believer in, if you do the job that you were elected to do, and you do it well, that any place you want to go, you're able to do. And I think one of the best jobs is to be mayor, but what I'm going to do is do the best job as city controller.
You're doing a great job. The first question is from, and on the questions too, if you want to stand up so that she can answer your question and not look at me, that's fine too. This is from Frank Barron, and if you don't want to, you can listen to your seat too. Your investigations are fantastic. But has anyone ever been arrested or jailed, and if not, why not?
Well, there are a couple instances where we have referred cases to the city attorney and the district attorney. One that we helped investigate was on, for example, Prestige Parking. It was a parking lot operator where they would collect the city tax. You know, when you go to a parking lot, it says it costs $10, and included in that is a 10% tax, parking tax. They were collecting the money and never giving it to us. And so we went after them both criminally and civilly. They were found guilty on the criminal side in the last year, and we are going after them civilly. There are a couple other cases that we have referred that we don't always talk about publicly. We worked recently with the LA Unified School District on auditing their their construction management program, and have had instances where there may be conflicts of interest, and they will potentially pursue if they find that those are appropriate to send over to the DA. So again, when we have instances where there's criminal behavior and we do the investigation, we do forward that.
Thank you. This one's from Marshall. There's no last name, so all the Marshalls, please stand up. Could you explain from your point of view the pros and cons of the city and when and if it should file for bankruptcy?
Well, I don't believe that we should file for bankruptcy. I think that would be a cop-out. I think that would be a situation where a judge would tell the city leadership to do the same thing that they should be doing today. And they're tough decisions, but we have to make them now. We cannot hold off in making those decisions. And you have to have a dialogue. You bring together the community, the neighborhoods, the business leaders, and yes, the labor leaders to say, how do we make some changes that are going to help us be fiscally sustainable over the years? And so I think we are seeing some glimmers of hope going forward, but we cannot rest on our laurels because that's what's happened in the past. We've gotten through a crisis and they said, oh, we don't really need to save for a rainy day. Well, in fact, we do. And the amounts, when we look at our property tax and we look at sales tax and some of our other sources of revenue, we are not seeing a huge increase. If you look at some of the charts, it shows in 2007 we're up here. In 2009, we dipped to, practically zero. This is not a U-shaped recovery. It's like an L shape. We're not going anywhere. We're just not getting any worse. So it's important for us to take that into consideration and continue to look at what is sustainable.
Okay, David Hector, has there been an audit of the finance department? And if so, there are currently over $7 million outstanding with just the top 14 debtors list as of October 27, 2010.
Thank you. I actually helped create the top debtors list. It was important that we had all of these people who owed the city money. Prestige as well. There's a number of parking lot operators that are on that list. And we hope that a little bit of shame will encourage people to respond. So if you went on the Office of Finance list, you can see the top debtors that are there, and people who owe the city money. Additionally, so when we did the top debtors list, in the first 3 months, I think we collected, and I did this as a council member, about $3 million in the first 3 months, just able to go and get people. One of the other things that we're doing is I am able to, it's called the Intercept program. So if Richard had a contract with the city of Los Angeles for providing us gasoline, for example, and we looked and found that Richard owed us tens of thousands of dollars in taxes, but we were paying him millions of dollars every month purchasing gas from his company. Well, there's never been a connection there. So we are beginning, albeit pilot programs in different departments, to look at people who have contracts and people who owe us money. And so the first group we found is close to $1 million that we're going to go after different people. But I can intercept their payment. We're sending them a nice little letter from the controller that says, just FYI, you owe us money, and your next check probably won't be for the full amount. You should be calling the Office of Finance to figure out where we are. And that's our hope. And so we have been looking at the Office of Finance. We did an audit on collections. We found, and it was a follow-up audit, that they only collect